Good morning, fifth grade. Happy Thursday. We are on our third lesson today, and we are going to be talking about quadrilaterals. Today it's going to start getting a little bit trickier, so you really need to pay close attention to everything that I'm about to go over so that it can be a great introduction for your lesson that you're going to be doing today on the Personal Math Trainer and Interactive Student Edition. So the first thing that we need to know about quadrilaterals is they have parallel lines, and they also can have perpendicular lines. So what that means is, say I have a quadrilateral. I have two sets of parallel lines. Okay, I have a set of parallel lines on the sides, and I have a set of parallel lines on the top and the bottom. So here's a set of parallel lines, and then up and down is a set of parallel lines. But we also have the set of perpendicular lines. We have these being perpendicular, these being perpendicular, these being perpendicular, and these being perpendicular. So a quadrilateral typically has both. So there are going to be 5 different types of quadrilaterals that we are learning today. The first type is a trapezoid, okay? So a trapezoid is a quadrilateral with at least one pair of parallel sides. So if we look here, we see that we have one pair of parallel sides, because if those keep going on forever, never, they're never going to intersect. The reason we only have one is because if we look at these here, if these keep going to infinity and beyond, then they're eventually going to cross. So trapezoids only have one set of parallel lines that will never intersect. The second trapezoid that we're going to learn about is a parallelogram. A parallelogram is a special trapezoid with opposite sides that are congruent and parallel. So looking at our picture we have here, we have a set of parallel lines on the side, and we have a set of parallel lines on the top and the bottom. So we have 2 sets of parallel lines. It also means that we have 2 sets of congruent. See, these have 2 lines and that has 2 lines. That means the parallel sides on the sides are congruent. We have 1 line on top and 1 line on bottom. That means the sides on top and the bottom are also congruent. So we have 2 sets of parallel lines that are congruent. The third type of parallelogram that we're going to be learning about is a rectangle. A rectangle is a special parallelogram with 4 right angles and 4 pairs of perpendicular sides. So what that means, it has 1 perpendicular side, 2 perpendicular side, 3 perpendicular, and 4 perpendicular. And it also has 4 right angles, 1, 2, 3, 4, which we can see with the squares in the corners, as you can see where I just circled. Moving on to our 4th quadrilateral that we're going to be learning about. A rhombus is a special parallelogram with 4 congruent sides. So a rhombus has 4 sides that are all the same. Okay, so all the sides are going to have 1 line if it's a rhombus. Okay, noting that they're all the same length. So I'm just going to put a made up length on the side here. I'm just going to pretend this is 12 centimeters, 12 centimeters, etc., 12 centimeters, and 12 centimeters. So all the lengths on all the sides are going to be the same with a rhombus. Okay, the last parallelogram that we're going to be talking about is your typical square. Okay, a parallelogram is a square is a special parallelogram with 4 congruent sides and 4 right angles. So what that means is it has 4 congruent sides. Congruent means all the sides are measured the same. It also means that it has 4 right angles. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you see that in any type of parallelogram today, it's going to be a square, okay? So there's something a little bit tricky to note about quadrilaterals. Quadrilaterals can be classified as many different things. So when you're looking at a quadrilateral, it can be a rhombus as well as a parallelogram. Okay, it can have multiple different names. So I'm just going to go back over one more time. Okay, this is a trapezoid. This is a parallelogram, 2 equal sides. This is a rectangle. this is a rhombus, and this is a square. Okay, just for review quick before we go into our first working problem. Okay, so this here we have, I need to take a look at it and see what we have going on here. We have 4 lines, which mean they're all equal sides. So I'm going to go back up to here. I remember my square had 4 equal sides, but a square also has to have 4 right angles. This does not have any right angles. So I need to go back up and look at my rhombus. So we know that the picture that I'm working with is a rhombus because we have the same picture here. So I'm going to circle, this is a rhombus. Let's see if it falls into the category of a parallelogram. So a parallelogram has 2 lines on each side, side by side, and only 1 up and down. So in this slide, this would not classify as a parallelogram because all sides are congruent, and in a parallelogram, it has 2 separate sides, okay? So now let's see if this classifies as a rectangle. So we have a rectangle has to have 4 right angles. Does our image have 4 right angles? No, it does not. So I'm going to cross out that one, okay? We know that this is a quadrilateral, yes, because it has 4 sides, and we're working with quadrilaterals today. So pretty much everything can be classified as a quadrilateral. Let's see if this can classify as a trapezoid. A trapezoid is a quadrilateral with at least 1 pair of parallel sides. Okay? So going back to our image, does this have at least 1 pair of parallel sides? It does, but it's not classified as a trapezoid because it doesn't have a pair of lines that are going to eventually intersect. So it is not a trapezoid. A square. Let's see if this classifies as a square. A square has to have 4 right angles, and we don't have 4 right angles, so it's not a square. So we have 2 names for this quadrilateral here. It is called a quadrilateral and a rhombus. Moving on to our next question here. Select all that apply. Quadrilateral, trapezoid, parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, and square. So like I said at the beginning, we're working with quadrilaterals today, so we know 5th grade that it's going to be a quadrilateral. And looking at that image, it looks very, very similar to our trapezoid that we were going over. So I'm guessing it's going to be a trapezoid. Let's see if it classifies as a parallelogram. A parallelogram has 2 opposite sides that are the same, so going side to side and up and down. Let's see if it has that. No, it does not, so it's not going to be a parallelogram. Let's see if it classifies as a rectangle. Rectangle has 4 right angles. Does this image have 4 right angles? No, it does not, so it's not a rectangle. Let's see if it classifies as a rhombus. A rhombus has 4 equal sides that are the same length. Let's take a look at this trapezoid. I'm just going to say no, it's not a rhombus because it doesn't have 4 equal sides that are all the same length. And lastly, let's see if it classifies as a square. A square has to have 4 right angles. Does this have 4 right angles, 5th grade? No, it does not. So the only 2 that classify this one are quadrilateral and trapezoid. So 5th grade, as you're going through this lesson, I would highly recommend writing down what each one is so that you can have them in front of you as you're working through your lesson today. So I would have a notebook and paper in front of you, and I would write down each of these different things so that you know what you're going to be doing today. So don't forget, there's 5 different types. We have trapezoid, we have parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, and square. And you really need to remember all of those today for the work that you're going to be doing. Okay, I hope that helps a little bit, and I will see you on Monday for lesson 11.4.